there, I'm Danielle Clayton, the board chair of the nonprofit We Need Diverse Books, and an author of over a dozen books for kids and teens. I'm excited to kick off the second panel in our Magic Stories Are for Everyone series that celebrates magical and inclusive storytelling, because every kid deserves an invitation to a magic school and to see themselves in a book. To coincide with this panel series, WNDB will be sending a special edition of our bookish care packages to trans, non-binary, and queer youth across the USA. Each package will include fun swag items like bookmarks and stickers, along with a magical book. To learn more about this initiative and to make a donation, please visit the link in our YouTube description. The money we raise will provide our care packages nationwide and support trans and non-binary writers. I'm thrilled to be joined with my co-host, the amazing Soman Chainani, an award-winning filmmaker and author of the best-selling School for Good and Evil series, one of my favorite. Welcome, Soman. Thank you for saying yes to my mischief.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Danielle. I just think this is such an important thing to talk about, because when I wrote the School for Good and Evil series, part of it was because, I grew up reading a lot of magic school books and felt like something was missing. It felt like everything was too rigid. There was a sense of boundaries and borders that I didn't necessarily vibe to or appreciate. And I wanted to open up and create a school where the biases that were in the world weren't necessarily present, and you could operate from a place of complete freedom to be who you wanted to be. I want to thank you all for being here, and I'm very excited to chat with all these amazing authors. And now I would love to introduce our panelists.
I'm Jessica Corey. I'm the author of over a dozen books for kids and teens, and I'm here to share with you the Mystic School of Musicraft. This is my magic school that is set in a world where music creates magic, and every song is a spell, and it follows 12-year-old Amelia Jones as she gets into the music/magic school of her dreams, only to find out she's accepted by mistake. And she has 3 months to prove she's a good enough musician to stay at this school. So if you love music, if you love magic, they come together in this world.
Hi, thank you so much. It is a joy and a pleasure to be here. I'm here to talk about Keenan Masters and the Peerless Magic Crew. Keenan is a young poet. He's attending what he thinks is an art school, who comes to realize that magic is real in his world, but it's been corrupted. So he and his friends, a dancer and an artist, they have to figure out why. And the only way they can solve the mystery is by using their arts together.
Hi, I'm Don Martin. I'm the author of Verity Vox and the Curse of Foxfire. It's about a witch in training, that's Verity Vox, who is sent to a forgotten coal mining town in the mountains of Appalachia. And when she gets there, she learns she has to break a curse, find a missing girl, and solve the mystery of what's really under the mountain.
Hi, thanks for having me. As an ex-Harry Potter kid, this is my favorite subject of all time. My book is Sir Callie. It's a series of 4 books, and it is a classic medieval fantasy about Callie, who is a non-binary kid in a very gendered world. But it has non-binary lead, gender-fluid prince, trans dragons, gay dads, and lesbian witches.
Hi, I'm Jadzia Axelrod, and I wrote Galaxy the Prettiest Star, which is a graphic novel from DC Comics, and it's a coming-of-age trans story that involves a crisis of identity of a sparkly space princess in exile who is living in a small town. That crisis can only be saved by a heroic embrace of herself and also a romance with the new girl in town.
This is Jaden Powers and the Inheritance Magic. So this book is about a 12-year-old Black boy named Jaden Powers who loses his best friend in a car crash. He then finds out that his best friend had magic. And so now Jaden Powers has to go to magic school to figure out what happened to his best friend, to get the truth behind the matter. And maybe Jaden is magic too. We don't know.
I'm Natalie Parker. I am the author of The Devouring Wolf, which is a queer magical middle grade about a group of kids who are excited to go to the first full moon of summer ritual and turn into werewolves for the very first time in their lives. After which they'll get to attend the very special werewolf summer camp and learn how to use all of their new magic. However, for the first time in like 100 years, this group of kids does not turn into werewolves. So they have to work together to figure out what's gone wrong and to protect themselves and their pack from the devouring wolf.
So because we love this kind of thing, we're going to start off with breaking the ice with a little game of show and tell. So I'm going to call on each one of you to show me a fun item on your desk. And then I want you to tell us a little bit about it.
So I'm a giant Hayao Miyazaki fan, as is evidenced by the fact that I kept saying that my book is like, what if Kiki's Delivery Service took place in the world of Old Gods of Appalachia? So friends of mine got me this calcifer lamp. Hold on. It lights up. Isn't it great? I know. I use it to hold
It's
my little
incredible.
charging cord in the flames for my phone.
Let me tell you. I had something on my desk, but it's in my other room. So actually, it was my first book. I'll just tell you what it was. So So my first book, Cameron Battle and the Hidden Kingdoms, came out like 3 or 4 years ago. And so for me, that is one thing that I look at all the time because it was my first book in the industry. And also it pretty much like gave me the therapy that I needed because I had a really rough childhood. And so writing that book was a way for me to like understand like who I was as a child and also to understand like my place in the world. And so I can't believe I left it in the other room, but yeah, so that's what I look at all the time.
Actually, like Dawn, I am a huge Miyazaki fan. And so one of the little protectors on my desk is this little Kodama from Princess Mononoke, and it doesn't light up, but it does glow in the dark. So if I could pop this and show you, it would glow in the dark. So this is the little spirit that is always there to tell me that there is still goodness and hope in the world and the forest is worth saving.
This is a fairly recent addition. I don't know if this little guy. So for those of you who are Minecrafters, this is a little die cast of a villager. So the funny thing about this, it's hilarious because me and the twins were just playing yesterday, and these guys, it's like we're, kind of one of the things I enjoy doing is renovating villages and going in there. I don't know why. It's a throwback to the degree I don't use from school. I don't know. But with that said, it's always funny because there's always one of these guys just sitting here judging you with their little judgy noises. So it's like one of the perfect things to have on my desk. So whenever I'm writing and I'm not feeling great about a draft, I'm just reminded of that little gaze looking at me, and just I can tell myself, oh yeah, you're a nitwit, and then I can keep on writing.
Alrighty, so I had a few things I was going to show, but I think my favorite one is this book. It is the last book in the Tamora Pierce series, Protector of the Small, and this particular one is the first book I bothered booksellers about. It was $5.99 from the UK Waterstones, and I went in every single day until it came out and bothered everyone about it. And it got signed for me, which was very exciting. And I love this series more than anything, so this is an inspiration for me.
So this is my planner, which I decorated to look like a spell book, so it seemed appropriate. And I put a lot of stuff in here for each week. So there's comics and some screen caps of Zoom calls, turning this into like a scrapbook. And also there's a section in the back to help me keep track of projects. I can't show you the ones that are working, but here's a blank spot. That's my planner on my desk.
Right now, my desk has recently been taken over by my children.
Oh my
Love,
goodness.
Hope, Toffee, my fave Dada, and my Labubu monster children. So they threaten me to work done, or who knows what might happen in the night.
Soman, I'm not supposed to pick on you, but I am curious about what you have on your desk. Is there anything interesting?
The crazy part is I don't even use a desk. I just write on my couch. But I'll show you what I have off to the side, which is the only time I ever have anything on my desk is when like I'm in proof stage. And so I'm in proof stage on my next book, which I've been working on for 3 years. And so that's the only time I move from the couch to like the kitchen island. So the next thing we're going to do is we'd love to see your favorite drink while you're working. So we're talking a mug or water bottle or whatever beverage receptacle you use.
I have my little Jamar mug here. My twin brother got it for me. He's a lawyer. He's all about like putting his name on everything. And so like last Christmas, we spent Christmas together. He was like, you need something, you need a mug, you need something to like fill your oats while you're writing. I was like, I don't care that much. But he was like, no, you need it. So like he got me a mug, he got me a blanket with my name on it, he just loves having his name on everything. And so this is what I use when I'm writing. I don't really drink much. I probably maybe drink some orange juice or something like that when I'm writing, but that's pretty much it.
Well, I have just finished my coffee, 2.5 cup of coffee today. And this is my favorite mug I use all the time. And it has all the little Studio Ghibli characters on there that I ordered from an artist who doodles them, and they are so cute. I've had it for years, and if it ever broke, I would probably cry because I don't think that the artist sells them anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a very treasured possession.
For like a favorite cup that's more housebound, I don't know if y'all can see that. Ooh, and it's faded. This was at one stage many moons ago red, but this is one of the cups from the farewell season at Candlestick Park for the Niners. I'm not from San Francisco, but a massive 49ers fan for better or for worse. So this is one of those kind of like rugged, falling apart keepsakes that I get to keep around. And it just makes me happy when I look at it, and hopefully is good luck related for the next season.
So as a Brit, I have a huge tea problem, which means I also have a huge mug problem. So it was really hard to choose. But I picked this one that I got for my wife for our anniversary a while ago. It is as in Chris, and then it says, "You are the best thing I've ever found on the internet," because I found her on Tumblr back in the heyday, and that's how we met.
This is my go-to mug. It is very, very big because I'm a giant person. It's my resting witch face mug. It holds like 4 cups of coffee, so it's the only thing that gets me through. However, because I'm of the gay, I do always have my water, my black coffee, and then something for fun. One for hydration, one for energy, and one to feel alive.
So this is my favorite mug. It is handmade by a local artisan, and it has this beautiful like dark chrome glaze, which I've never seen before. When I saw her stand at like a little arts market, she had 2 things with this beautiful glaze. One was this mug, and the other was a Christmas ornament. So it was a star in this beautiful dark chrome. And I bought them both, and I love this mug, part because it is beautiful, and part because there is no handle. And I have problem with my hands of size getting into certain mug handles. So the fact that I don't even have to worry about that with this mug is very comforting.
I have this mug, which was gifted to me in 2004. Drinking from it always just makes me feel like I've been transported to a fantasy novel. I don't know if you can see, it has a little crescent moon and a star. It's just the perfect size, and coffee is my go-to, black coffee, always and forever. But I love this mug so much that actually I realized I hide it when guests come over, because I do use it, I wash it and put it away, but like my wife won't ever take it out. She knows that this one is mine. So I have been known to pull it out of rotation if we have like family or friends staying over, just to protect it, because this is my magic.
And now Salman and I are going to put you all in the hot seat. We have some very important questions. Why is it important for all kids to receive invitations to magic school? So Jessica, if you could kick us off.
Yeah, this is actually a question I thought about a lot when I started the Mystic School of Musicraft series. So often like magic school stories, magic worlds are like hidden, and to get in you have to be like special. And I started writing this book this way, and it didn't feel right for this story, and I realized it was because not every kid could get in. And so I actually revised it and changed it to a world where as long as you play a musical instrument, you can create magic. And so the music school is absolutely anybody. You just have to work for it. You have to want it. And it's all about the merit, the ethics, work ethic you have in learning your instrument, learning your craft. And people have complained about it to me. They've been like, why does everybody get into this school? Why can't it be more hidden, more secretive, and only special certain kids get in? It's like, that's not what I wanted. This is a world where the more people you play with, the bigger your orchestra, the stronger your music. And there's a place for everyone in that orchestra, in that symphony that these kids are a part of. And so that was really important to me as I was writing, and a question I thought about a lot. It's about finding your own music that's inside of you. Amelia learns it's better to be authentic. It is to be perfect. And that is what her superpower is, and what gets her into the school and proves her spot there. Every single one of us, every single kid out there has like their own special music to add to this grand symphony that we call life. And so it was really important to me to reflect that in the way that this world was constructed.
When I look at folks who who get to go to schools and look at the impact that you could have in that place. Like one of the benefits I think about often, and I was thinking about with Keenan Masters, is that you're going to get a chance to be around folks that you'll never necessarily get a chance to meet in your day-to-day life, whatever that was in your time before that space. I believe that the more people we meet and the kinds of people we meet, it gives us a fresh way to see the world. It gives us fresh perspective. I wear contacts every day to see, like legally blind guy. And you know, if I get one knocked out on accident, it changes my entire day. Like if something else that happens, it's like it's a problem for me. Kind of looking at that through the lens of being in fresh communities and in fresh spaces. What if your future best friend or your new crush you never met because one of you didn't get that invitation to that school? When I think about why it's important for all the kids to have that, it's just the expanding the possibilities, expanding everything that you can do and the people that you can meet and future choices that you'll make in your life.
I've been saying a lot the last, couple years as we've been talking about books and accessibility and stuff, that in order for some people to have escapist literature, somebody else needed to want to escape. And I think of that in the context of magical books for magical kids. I say in my book that it's for all of the kids who found themselves on the wrong end of scripture, but the right side of choir. And we know, I work with Authors Against Book Bans as well, and we know that kids are far more likely to read whenever books aren't just for them, but they are about them, where the protagonist, where the heroes, where the person saving the day resembles them in some kind of way. I've got a queer protagonist. We have all sorts of delightful representation here, but they are also less likely to read if they cannot find themselves on bookshelves. So in an era where we are facing rapidly declining literacy rates, that goes hand in hand with needing to see ourselves reflected on the page, because, I'm not interested necessarily in a story about somebody that does not know the road that I've walked and doesn't know the life that I've lived. And, you can always tell when a book is about you, but not for you. And I think that when we write our books for like our inner child, we are connecting with those kids out there as well that need to see themselves on the page.
I love that. And the fact that for so long, so many kids have not been centered at all. They have been in the margins and erased, and they just don't get those invitations. And so this next generation is like, if I'm not there, I'm not reading. And they're going to opt out, I feel like. So it's so important.
As a kid, I always wanted to go to magical school, obviously. I'm a staunch ex-Harry Potter kid. It was very hard to, deal with all of that. Even as I was loving those books and living in that world, I always knew that if it was real, I wouldn't be a hero. I wouldn't be a good guy. I wouldn't fit in. Because it always felt like adventure stories, you had to come through the other side bright and shiny and happy and forgiving. And I've always been a very angry kid. I felt a lot of resentment in my life. So when it came to writing Sir Callie, it was originally going to be a magical school series. And then when I was writing the second book, I realized how disingenuous that would be to the characters. The world, the school that Callie wants to go to is still very intolerant and still very, binary, and you have to fit into this certain archetype to be accepted. And for my kid characters to be accepted, they would have to change who they are. So the series became about, changing the world rather than changing themselves. And I wanted to create a world where, kids could come through trauma and adventure and, stay flawed and stay angry, but also deserve to be the heroes of it. So for me, magical school means, having a place where all of you is accepted, period. Like the good, the bad, the ugly, the heroic, and magic has always been very much a metaphor for difference and uniqueness. So I really wanted a magical system that would help kids grow in that sense, where, the things that make you a target for bullying or discrimination, those are the things that make you beautiful and special. And I feel like magical schools, especially now, they're places where those things can grow.
I love that. And just creating a space for the whole kid, right, to be served, whether it fits or it doesn't fit, right? That they are whole beings in this school, up to whatever the mischief and magical things that they're up to. So I love that.
Yeah, let's combine a couple questions here for you. And I want to know how you created the magic system in your book. And I also want to know, in that magical system, what magical creature would you most choose as a pet?
So my book has silly sci-fi technology that is essentially magic. So we'll hand wave that. But the main magical element is this device called an SR, which is looks like an avocado. And the idea with the SR is it allows you to transform your body based on an image you might have in your head. And it's a very kind of this potent imagery that is kept in a drawer for a while until our girl finds it and takes it out and uses it and becomes the person that she always knew she was. As a trans woman myself, I love the idea of this device. I would love to have one that gives me a magical girl transformation and, like, you know, smooths out the edges. I would absolutely love to have an SR in my regular life.
So I always put a little bit of myself in books. And so as an educator, I always had these kids who would have outbursts, right? And so they will always say, this is just not fair. Like, why is no one listening to me? And so I kind of put that in my book. So in my book, kids come into their magic when they have an outburst, right? So when they see that the world around them isn't fair, or they want to stand up for themselves and no one is standing up for them, or when they're trying to say something, but no one is listening. In my book, Jaden Powers, he's so frustrated at the loss of his best friend, and no one is listening to him when they tell. So everyone around him tells him that, you know, your best friend is dead. He's not coming back. We have to mourn him. We have to grieve him. But the main character is like, no, he's alive. Like, I'm not understanding why people are not understanding me. I feel him. Like, he literally feels his best friend in the book. He can't see him, but he feels his presence. And so because people don't listen to him, and because people don't listen to Black children, right, especially specifically Black boys, he has an outburst, right? And in that outburst, it creates magic within the world and also creates a place for him to go and be himself. That's how I kind of created that whole magical system in my book, because I was always thinking about the ways in which we don't listen to children and the ways we don't listen to them stand up for themselves and say when something is wrong. And so they have outbursts, and in that outburst, it creates magic. And in part of that system, we have these little horses that they ride on to go to the magical world of their outburst. And so I think that would be my pet for sure.
So in The Devouring Wolf, obviously, it's a werewolf world. And I kind of started off with just a desire to write a werewolf story that was for kids, that didn't center experiences of like cis male energy. I went about it just wanting to create a space for queer magic that really focused on young kids and young bodies and young feelings. The werewolves in this world all turn for the first time between the ages of 9 and 12. So it is very overtly a metaphor for growing up, for puberty. But I also wanted to address feelings that kind of came from my own life, my own lived experience of, like, you know, you kind of feel like there's a normal to all of those changes. And when you're outside of that normal and there's nowhere to go with those feelings, what do you do? And so when this group of kids, there's 5 of them, and they all exist across the different spectrums of queerness and gender orientation and sexual orientation and what those feelings are like, they all have their own, like, they kind of feel like outsiders. And when they don't turn into werewolves like they see the rest of their community doing, of course, the first feeling is, well, what's wrong with me? I went about the magic system of, like, no, what's right with me? So what is it about us that brings us together, that allows us to do this differently than the way that we've been taught our whole lives it has to happen for young bodies and young werewolves. And that just kind of felt very important to me, as if I'm building a queer mythos of werewolves and a queer mythos of magic, I wanted it to, like, just move through every possible aspect of this world.
You didn't say if you were going to be a wolf, like the magical creature part, second part.
100%. I am a Sagittarius, so I don't think I have a choice.
What would your favorite subject at magic school be? Or you could tell me, you know, the one you would hate the most. And then what extracurricular activity would you sign up for?
Listen, when I was a kid, I always wanted weather magic. I always wanted weather magic. So I feel like that would be like my favorite subject. The thing that I am doing after class, I love a magical sport. I do love a magical sport. I have a book that I'm working on that they've got sports. I love when okay, we do magic or we fly or we do whatever, and we're gonna find new ways to make a sport about that. And I think I love that because I grew up, deep East Texas. So it was football country. And I was like, okay, well, I want to play a sport, but I don't want to do that. So I was always a soccer kid, but we didn't have a soccer team. So I love when it's like, no, the weird fantasy kid, can find the sport that's right for me. So I would probably pick whatever weird fantasy sport we've invented for this particular world. I know in Lev Grossman's The Magician series, they have this weird, it's almost a chess game involving witchcraft, wizardry and stuff. And I'm like, I want to play that. Let me go play weird, zap you with my I want that. I want to play that.
I love that. I have magical fencing in my magic school series. I just was I like fencing. It's interesting to me. So I would do the same.
I played piano for about 10 years when I was a kid. And then I had to quit when I was 16 because I would spend literally 5 hours a day playing piano and then 5 hours a day writing. And I began to get carpal tunnel as a teenager. And my doctor was like, pick one or the other, either music or writing. And I chose writing, which was the right choice because I loved piano. But to be honest, I really, really sucked at it. I was not good. And my parents knew that, I think. My whole family knew, but I was unaware for many years. Until I finally had a reckoning moment. So I would not fare well at the Mystic School of Music Craft, especially in anything that involved memorizing music. I can't memorize music. I can memorize pages and pages and pages of text, but I cannot memorize a single line of music for some reason. So I would flunk out pretty fast. If I'm going to stay long enough to join an extracurricular, I would join the sparring club, which is where they duel with magic. Dueling pianos, dueling violins, fiddling at each other. And whoever plays their violin or their flute the hardest, knocks the other person off the stage or something. So that would be me knocking people off the stage with my violin that in my head I would be amazing at.
In my, imaginary as me world, I would love to be good at sport. I would love to do the sword fighting and the dueling and the flying around of broomsticks. But I know myself, and that would not be me. When I was at school, I was really bad at most things because I hyperfixated on writing when I was 12 and I didn't do anything else and I wasn't really good at anything else. So I think in magical school, it would be very creative based. I think I would like to create stories for my friends and have them become real, immersive, that thing in the holodeck in Star Trek where they create whole immersive worlds that you can play in. I don't know if it would be an actual academic subject, but I think I would ignore my schoolwork in favor of that. I think I would like science just for the fact that it brings magic, into normal things plants and the atmosphere in the world, cooking. So I think I'd be interested in that, but I think I'd be hyperfixated on anything creative.
As many folks have said, I think some sort of dueling, I would, be all in on that. That would be fun. But also a close, either a tie or a close second for me would be history. I think that would be just fascinating, where, you may have your, the history that you knew before, but then how that, interacts with magic and, how that operates behind the scenes and weaves through what you know. I think that would be a fascinating study. I say that now, as as an adult, but as a kid, would I be asleep in that class and rushing to cram through my essays? Probably. When I think about what would be fun and engaging, and then back to the world that I've created with Keenan Masters, some sort of cipher session or poetry club. A lot of their magic relies on kind of riffing together and trying stuff out, and I think that would just be an amazing environment of well, I tried to spell this way, let's add a little bit of your flavor to it, all these different variations that you would get, hopefully without as much adult supervision, where you can kind of play and break things and have fun. I think that would probably be my favorite place to be, after my homework was done and the essays were finished.
Why don't we move to our final activity, where I'm going to give each of you an option to choose something in your own magical story. Esme, let's start with you. Choose your magical species: hobbit, changeling, or undead.
Well, I'm 5'1", so I'd definitely be a hobbit. And I actually just started listening to Lord of the Rings again. So my friend used to tell me that even the smallest person can change the course of the future, and that sit real good with me.
Don, you're up. Choose your realm: creepy ancient woodland or a corrupt magical capital.
Ancient woodland. Yes. All the way, every day. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, that's kind of the did you read my book? That's my whole vibe, is the creepy ancient woodland and all the strange, bizarre cryptids that live in it. So yeah, I do often get accused of being a woodland fae myself. So I'm just not going to beat those allegations anytime soon, and I will choose my homeland.
Jessica, you're up. Choose your weapon: enchanted sword or magical bow and arrows.
Oh, bow and arrows. I mean, I'll take either, but bow and arrows for sure. I don't want to get close enough for them to, strategy here.
And Devon, you're next. Choose your ride: a unicorn that can cast healing spells or a Pegasus that can fly across an ocean without breaking a sweat.
That's really hard. Unicorn that can cast healing spells. I just, the practicality of that, the service to the community or hustle, depending on what kind of world I'm in. That's we can work with that. Pegasus is great, but I do enjoy a long flight to get some words in.
All right, Natalie, you're up. Choose your enhancement: you can detect when a human is lying, or you can speak to animals. This is a tough one.
Speak with animals.
The logical choice.
Is it? I don't know. I think I've just decided I don't always want to know when somebody's lying.
Jamar, you're up. Choose your sidekick: an annoying yet resourceful imp, or the cutest yet the most helpless baby dragon.
Oh, that's easy for me. The second one, the cutest and helpless baby dragon. So I fashion myself as I save animals on the side. I'm a superhero. I'm an animal superhero saver. So for sure.
Perfect. And last but not least, Jadzia, you're going to choose your side quest: defeating a basilisk that is plaguing a village, so plus strength points, or solving a riddle to best a sphinx that's blocking access to the capital, which gives you wisdom points.
Well, I love the idea of facing down a monster in a physical combat, but I have to admit that I will feel more prideful if I solve the riddle. Like, that's something to be like, that's a rep that you want to have. It's like, yeah, she's the one who solved the riddle of the Sphinx, huh? Anybody can defeat a basilisk if they try hard enough. But who's got the connections to solve a riddle? Definitely the riddle.
Well done. Choices all well made.
We're at the end of this fun adventure, and we need to wrap things up. But thank you so much for watching our panel. I also want to extend my gratitude to our panelists and my co-host Soman, who is so special to me, for joining me today. For our viewers, we invite you to check out these amazing authors' books to add some adventure and magic to your reading list. Be sure to tune in for our third panel coming soon, and check out our website for details about our special edition bookish care packages. Teachers, librarians, and educators who serve queer youth are encouraged to apply for these 3 packages. Happy reading.